Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Notes and Quotes podcast. So, I recently went and watched the new Marvel movie Thunderbolts. Now, if you don't know, I am a massive Marvel fan, and I know that's probably very cliche to say because I feel like everyone is a Marvel fan. Everyone has at least watched one Marvel movie. I've never met anyone who hasn't watched at least one or at least knows some character in Marvel. It's very popular. I don't need to tell you that. But the point is, I went and watched the new Thunderbolts a couple nights ago. First of all, extremely good movie. Go see it. If not for the superhero action Avengers kind of vibe, do it for the underlying slash major theme in the whole movie, which I don't think is something that Marvel has really done so blatantly in the way that it has done in Thunderbolts. And I think you should go watch it for that. By the way, spoiler alert, I will be talking about Thunderbolts. So if you haven't seen it and you want to go see it, please just, pause this episode and listen to this episode after you've watched Thunderbolts because it will be full of spoilers. And in honor of Mental Health Awareness Week, so first of all, happy Mental Health Awareness Week, guys. It is such an important week for mental health awareness, mental health action. I am really glad to be able to share this episode with you on Mental Health Awareness Week. And I think it's so fun that this kind of Marvel movie came out just before Mental Health Awareness Week as well. So before I start talking about it, let me give you the quote of the day that actually fully encapsulates the essence of this Marvel movie's theme. So the quote of the day comes from Jon Jones. It says, "Your struggles don't define you. It's how you handle them that determines who you are." And I think that that's really important, not only just in and of itself, but it's also important in the context of this Thunderbolts movie. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Thunderbolts. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about the themes that it had and just kind of give you my perspective on everything. And yeah, so stick around for that if you want. So, Thunderbolts opens with Florence Pugh on an extremely tall building. I think I read that it's the second tallest building in the world. And she's not got any like intensive gear or anything, no superhero suit. She just looks like regular. She's just in a tracksuit, and it has this voiceover of her talking about the depths of her depression and how mundane her life feels and how she doesn't. She just feels empty, and then she just kind of very casually, not like a cool superhero jump or anything, like a very casual, just front forward step, falls off of the roof to, go and like pull out a parachute and go start fighting a bunch of bad guys. But it was very akin to suicide. And while she was fighting the bad guys, it didn't feel like a typical superhero fight scene. It felt almost very dry and drony and just really reflected how she was feeling and just her emptiness. And one of the things that I really thought was very just creative was the voiceover speech for that whole scene. So it was kind of her talking about how she just wakes up every day, does the same thing, goes to work, clocks in, clocks out, does it again over and over and again, and she just doesn't feel any joy in anything anymore. And it's something that I think can be very relatable to a lot of people, that mundanity and that drone that you can feel in life sometimes. And then also, I think the way that she was doing it, it just sounded like something that somebody casually would say for someone who's working a regular 9 to 5 job, whereas we're seeing her in her job of sorts, which is, as a professional assassin. And it's just such a interesting juxtaposition for a voiceover script, whatever statement like that. And I think it really sheds a light on the fact that we tend to, and I obviously superheroes are fictional, just bear with me on this train of thought. But I feel like we, as just consumers of superhero movies, tend to think of them as invincible and tend to think of them as, well, superhuman. And so that means that they don't experience mental health struggles like that. And yeah, I know you're probably wondering, how does this actually reflect real life? Because obviously superheroes are not a real thing, but I think you can still apply that to other aspects or other types of beings, human beings in our world. So we might look at people who are extremely successful or people who look like they have it together, people who we really admire, and or celebrities. Celebrities are a really good example. And just think, oh, well, they're almost superhuman and they don't experience the same kinds of mental health struggles that we do, or what I'm experiencing is not something that's common or is even relatable to somebody else. But this is a really great way of showing that, hey, it actually is very common and it is something that everyone kind of goes through at some point. So I thought that was a really interesting way to open up a Marvel movie on such a dark theme. And then it just gets darker throughout, but there's still very much a comedic element to the whole thing, because that whole comedy element that we have come to now love in the MCU is still there in Thunderbolts, with these disgraced anti superheroes who were all placed as villains in the previous movies or shows that they were in, and now are coming together to kind of remake themselves. They've always been struggling to remake themselves. If we go through the new Captain America guy, which I will admit he is my least favorite character, and I need to cut him some slack because of just like he's going through his own struggles and demons and stuff. But oh my gosh, he's such an asshole. Like he's so he really, really dislike him, which when I was reading through some articles, the guy that plays him said that he is prepared to become the most hated person in Marvel, and he's like very fine with that because his character is an asshole. But yeah, I think it was really interesting to kind of see his minor character development throughout the movie. He's not completely fixed. That's the other thing that I want to say as well. None of the characters in the movie, even though they were all individually going through their own struggles, none of them by the end of the movie were perfectly fixed. Not a single one of them was cured. And I think that's really important as well, just to shed light on the idea that you can't just fix mental health issues. You can't just cure it. It's not like you're going to get one hug and everything's going to be fine. Or you just admit that you have mental health issues and everything's going to be fine. Like, no, you're not going to start making friends and then everything's going to be fine. It's an ongoing thing that you have to work through. And that was very much reflected in this movie as well. Then we go on to, Florence Pugh is definitely, I'm saying Florence Pugh, that's not her character's name. Let me say her character's name, Yelena. Yelena was going through depression. And then there was also the new character, Bob slash Sentry slash The Void, is going through a very manic depression where he's almost like has these different versions of himself, where sometimes he's, really high, and then sometimes he's quite low and extremely self-deprecating, and then other times he's just in a complete void, and there's nothing that can really cheer him up, and it's almost detrimental to the people. Well, it's not almost, it is detrimental to the people around him, because he starts, almost just it was almost like in Endgame, not Endgame, Infinity War, where Thanos snapped his fingers and the people, half of the population just dissipated into dust. It was like that, but it was more intentional, where he would intentionally, as he was the void, he would transition into the void, and he would intentionally just kind of erase people into a black nothingness. It's hard to explain it. You have to kind of see it. So I definitely go see the Marvel movie. Marvel doesn't need more money, but like go see the Marvel movie because it was really good. Um yeah, he was going through a lot, and I think it was the Marvel movie portrayed that the way that he started to get a handle on his emotions and his mental health, because he'd gone through some significant trauma, like all of them, but his was impacting him on a greater scale than the rest of everybody. And Marvel portrayed that the best way, well, not the best way really, but I guess the best way, that the way to help him was through community and was through human connection, was through support. So there was a really interesting scene, the last scene, well, not the very last scene, but the peak last scene, where he was facing his two alter egos. So he was facing the void, which is like the deep, deep, deep depression, where he's like impacting other people and putting blackness on them, and then also just completely has no faith in himself at all, versus his, I want to say regular self. I don't know if that's the right term. His regular self. I say that cautiously. And in that scene, I don't want to say regular self, but just cut me some slack. His regular self was beating up the void version of him into submission. And I thought I was thinking when I was watching that, like, oh yes, that's really like that's the solution, because he needs to, it signifies him overcoming the void and he is gonna win in this fight. Which is a way, I think that I was really interested in the scene because I think that we have this mentality of like, we need to overcome our mental health struggles and we need to win in the fight against our mental health struggles. And that is not necessarily true. Because it's kind of like that idea of, you know, how somebody says, oh, I beat cancer, and that's an incredible, wonderful, amazing thing. And we kind of do the same thing with our mental health struggles, like, oh, I beat depression, I beat anxiety, whatever. But then in the movie, it was showing it's actually making it worse. Him trying to beat it into submission and stuff it down, kind of thing. Um, and in reality, he should lean on the people around him. So the way that he overcame it was Yelena and all of the other anti superheroes came and gave him a massive big hug and pulled him off of the void version of himself and just comforted him in his hour of need. And then everything went back to normal, so to say, as in like they were no longer in that fighting arena kind of thing. It was like an alter universe kind of thing that they were in. You have to watch it to see. And they were now okay. Not cured, not fixed. They still all had their struggles, but they were a little bit better than they were before because they had each other and because having community, having connection, seeing yourself and your struggles in other people and being reassured by those people around you helped them feel a little bit lighter and helped them feel a little bit better about what they were going through. And I think that was the major crux of the film. And that's exactly what people need. I think too many times we tend to think that we need to deal with our issues alone because we don't want to bother people. We don't want to seem like we're weak. We don't want to seem like a burden. And I experienced that as well. Like, I very much hate asking for help. I very much hate going to people and telling people I'm struggling. The idea of telling someone I'm struggling is terrifying for me. It's still something I'm working on. Even to tell my mom that I'm struggling, it's just too much. And I always think I can get through this alone. You know, I can do this. And in every single instance that I have gone to somebody that I trust and that I know loves and cares about me, somebody that I feel like I can rely on and tell them, I don't have to tell them every single thing that's going on, but like I just give them an inkling that I am maybe not okay. It helps. You know, it doesn't fix everything, is the key point there. It doesn't fix everything, but it helps make you feel a bit better and it helps set you on the path to fixing things. And that's exactly what has happened in this movie. They've now been branded as the new Avengers, which is extremely exciting and really interesting. But if you look at all of those individual characters at the start of the movie or at the beginning of their character arc in their own individual stories, and look at them now at the end of the movie, they're all a little bit different. You know, Yelena is a bit lighter and is more willing to actually lean on people and trust people and have connections as opposed to just being a lone ranger. The Walker, the new Captain America asshole guy, he is trying to be at least a little more self-aware, seems a bit more considerate of, you know, his teammates and people around him. I think, you know, the other ones, I can't remember their names, but I can see them in my mind. All of them have become a little bit lighter and a little bit more on the path to redemption. And that's the other thing that I think was really interesting as well. Every single one of these characters not only went through something terrible in their lives, but they were just set on the path of being a supervillain because of just the tragedies that have happened in their life. The one girl, oh, Ghost is her name. She had gone through some horrific accident and, you know, got all this quantum damage and stuff, and her parents were killed in front of her. And she was just trying to survive, but then she was made into a villain in the Ant-Man movie, well, Ant-Man 2. The new Captain America guy used to be a really nice guy, and then he turned villain due to just his own personal turmoil in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show. And then Yelena in Black Widow, oh my gosh, I mean, they were stripped away from their family. They went through terrible, terrible, terrible things in the Red Room. I say they because she's the sister of Scarlett Johansson. Not the actual biological, not in real life. I mean like in the movie, but I just can't. Black Widow is her name and it's her superhero name. Yeah, Natalie is her Natasha. Natasha is her Marvel name. Yeah, and they have so much red in their ledger, as they say, because of all of the assassinations that they've committed in their life, just due to from when they were extremely young girls and they were tortured and everything else. All of them went through terrible things and were branded as bad guys in their own individual stories, but they really are kind of just good people who went through terrible things. Oh, Bucky Barnes from the actual Captain America, who was tortured and mind manipulated into being the Winter Soldier for, I think, over a decade. So all of these things made them into bad guys, and they were given no second chances, and now they're given a second chance. And it's like, your identity is not defined by what you do. That's why I picked that quote today. Your struggles don't define you, it's how you handle them that determines who you are, by Jon Jones. Your struggles do not define you. They don't. Their struggles didn't define them. And yes, I know they're hypothetical characters, but it's what they signify, it's what they represent. The fact that they were branded as bad guys as their full identity in the Marvel movie, or in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, it doesn't mean that they have to stay as bad guys. The same thing happened with Loki as well. Loki was branded as a bad guy because he went through his own individual struggles and his own identity crisis and everything, being an adopted kid who wanted to be king and wanted to be loved and respected and all this stuff. And he's kind of loved in a way. He teeters between bad guy and good guy, but he is kind of loved. And now in his show Loki, I think he is actually the hero and the good guy in the movie. So I think Marvel is shifting now to giving all of the quote unquote bad guys a redemption story, which is really interesting and really nice. Because even the bad guy in the Thunderbolts movie, you know, Bob Sentry the Void, he isn't actually really a bad guy. He's just a guy who went through some incredible struggles and it just needs help. He just needs some help. He just needs some support. And he's not actually a bad guy. And the other bad lady, I think Valentina, she is bordering on a bad guy, but I think she also went through some of her own traumas. And either way, the whole crux is that you do not need to be defined by your struggles, and a second chance is allowed. You're allowed to do that, and you can provide that for yourself, but you can't be expecting somebody to come save you. You can't be entitled to think that everybody should be the one to fix you, because the way that you handle your struggles determines who you are and whether you are a bad or good guy or whatever. And also, there's no bad and good guy. That's not how humans are. It's not so black and white. I think it's very much a spectrum. So I like to think of humanity as like, when we're talking about good and evil and good and bad, it's like one long line, good at one end, bad at the other end, and there's all of this in the middle. It's just a spectrum, so to say. And it's just where you fall. No one is 100% good. No one is 100% bad. And sometimes, you know, you might think about, I don't know, serial killers and stuff. They veer very much towards the bad side, obviously, but there is some good in every person. Every person. And this is not, by the way, oh my God, I'm not actually justifying serial killers, please. I'm just trying to explain about the spectrum of humanity. I'm not 100% good. Hell to fuck no, I'm not. I would like to say that I'm more so veering towards the good side. I definitely am. I would love to say so. I would love to think so. I hope I am. But, you know, I'm not 100% good. No one is. No one's 100% bad either. So I think we need to cut ourselves some slack. If you've done bad things in your past, if you got things that you regret, if you feel bad about yourself, if you've been a horrible person to someone, acknowledge that. It's okay. That's fine that you have. It's not to justify it. It's just to accept that, yeah, that was incredibly terrible. That was not okay. And what can I do to redeem myself of those actions? Do I need to apologize to somebody? Do I need to, you know, do something? You usually know what you need to do. Usually people have a conscience and they know what they need to do if they've done something terrible. But if there's nothing that you can do and you're just holding on to it, why are you torturing yourself? And it's so easy. I acknowledge how incredibly easy it is to say, just let it go and move forward and look to the future. It's not easy. It's definitely not. But I think just acknowledging that you've only got the now and what's ahead, and your struggles do not define you. That helps. And it also helps to remember that you're not and this sounds cliche, I know it does, but it's really, it does apply, that you're not alone in anything. In anything that we do, we're not alone. Any experience that we're having, we're not alone. I've read, I think, on some social media comments a little while ago, when people post like relatable videos, and then somebody said, oh, there's no original experiences. There's literally no original experiences. And that's really true. There really is no original experiences. And that applies to our own mental health struggles as well. I don't think anyone is like 100% mentally well. And that's a huge statement to say. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think every single person on earth goes through some sort of struggles mentally, and it's to varying degrees, but 100% I know that humans are social beings. We are social creatures. We rely on community, and isolating yourself is not the way to go. I do it all the time. I always think that I need to handle things on my own, but there's so much power in community in ways that we don't really realize. And I think it's really beautiful as well to see how, even in this movie too, it's not like they had some big sit down therapy session, because that would have been cringe for them. That would have been laughable for these people who are hardened superhero assassins. Like, no, that, no, nobody would have done that. It was just through being together. It was just through sitting down. It was just through doing things together, fighting together, having each other's backs, and just being around each other that actually helped in the whole thing and helped them feel a little bit less terrible. It's also not to say that just getting some friends and going out and hanging out is going to fix all your problems. Once again, it doesn't fix things. It doesn't fix things, but it helps you feel a little bit less heavy and like you're laden down with all of these struggles if you're not going through it alone. And it's really interesting and commendable to see Marvel doing that and taking, well, this is what Florence Pugh said. She said it's incredibly huge that Marvel has taken a Marvel budget and applied it to such an incredibly important theme as this, mental health, depression, dealing with those things, because that it wasn't like some majorly secondary or tertiary theme on the movie. It was the main theme of the movie, and done in such a brilliant way where it wasn't too heavy, it wasn't too dark, but it was a dark theme, talked about in a comedic, relatable, entertaining way. And I think that's quite brilliant, to be honest. So if you are going through any struggles, if you are feeling like you're alone, if you are feeling like, your struggles are your identity, or your past is your identity, or what you deal with every day is your identity, whatever it might be, if you have anxiety and you feel like you're just an anxious person and that's your identity, no, it's not. Your brain's lying to you. You are not defined by your struggles. You are defined by how you handle your struggles. You are defined, and who you are is determined by how you handle them and the choices that you make now, today, tonight, whatever time it is, and in the future. Because in reality, the past doesn't actually exist. The future doesn't actually exist. The only thing that exists is now, and you get to choose what that's going to look like and what that will mean for the impending future. And you do not, once again, I will drill this into you, you do not have to decide on that and do all of that alone. Because there are no original experiences. Everyone's going through very similar things. So that's all I have for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed, and happy Mental Health Awareness Week. Please do something nice for yourself and for others around you, and just be attuned to what's going on in the world and how much that can affect all of us. So yeah. And guys, if you absolutely hated this episode, if you loved this episode, if this episode was whatever, I would love to hear about it. So if you want, you can do me a huge favor and just fill out the listener survey, which is in the show notes. And it just takes less than a minute to fill out. I just get to know what your thoughts are, what you liked, what you disliked, what you want to hear more of. And it's just so I can make the best possible podcast and community for you, because that's who this is for. Anyway, that's it. And if you want more, you can go check us out on our socials. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. Video exclusively on YouTube. That's where you'd be seeing me from if you're watching. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, rest of your day, rest of your night, rest of your evening, rest of your morning, whatever it is. And I will see you again next Tuesday. Okay, that's it. Bye. Love you. Oh, hey, before you go, one more thing. Please note, I am not a mental health professional. I'm not licensed. I'm not educated specifically on mental health stuff. I am just here sharing my personal opinions, my experiences, and my perspectives. And I'm just here to share them with you. That's it. Please don't use this as a substitute for any therapy or mental health support. If you need some, please go get some from actual qualified professionals. Okay, that's it. Bye.